Hello everyone. So good to be with you once again, my small but loyal group of viewers. I am Charles Wells and you are watching a brand new edition of The Patriot Preacher. Today we are going to tackle yet another issue that has divided this country many times over the course of my lifetime anyway. Today, folks, we're going to talk about the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. Now at this point you might be saying, what and why? So, first of all, we all know the First Amendment as giving us all of our basic rights. The First Amendment to the Constitution protects the freedom of speech, religion, and the press. It also protects the right to peacefully protest and to petition the government. And the amendment was adopted in 1791 along with 9 other amendments that make up the Bill of Rights, a written document protecting the civil liberties under U.S. law. James Madison drafted most of the Bill of Rights, and Madison was a Virginia representative who would later, of course, became our 4th president of the United States. He created the Bill of Rights during the first United States Congress, which met from 1789 to 1791, the first 2 years that George Washington was in office. Now, the particular part that a good deal of this country has been divided on is the Establishment Clause, which says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Now, most institutions of higher learning will basically informally call this the separation of church and state, although that term is nowhere to be found in the Constitution, and have used the Establishment Clause to claim that there is a wall between government and Christianity or religion, and that the two shall never be mixed, which is why we are no longer allowed to pray in schools, and things like the 10 Commandments cannot be displayed on government buildings, etc. However, I'm here today to contest this practice and to completely disagree with this interpretation of this often cited clause. So let me say straight off the top that what I'm about to present depends wholly and completely on the existence of one true God. Because after all, without God, the entire premise of a moral government completely falls apart. Because without Him, there is no law superior to human law. Without Him, we, humanity, are a complete accident and nothing more than a product of chemically induced recipe of molecules that are ultimately doomed to decay and return to the earth, which itself is ultimately doomed to destruction at some point in the future. And as a result of our accidental development, any rules or laws we devise to organize our societies are equally without value and also doomed to failure. So my argument that God and government must be linked or intertwined depends completely on faith. So, if you're an avowed atheist, then you probably won't find any merit in what I'm about to say. But if you possess even the slightest thought that we were created, then listen closely to what I have to say. So first of all, brothers and sisters, God is not adverse to government. In fact, God is the author of government. He is, after all, the judge and jury of all humanity. But God despises political theater, just as He despises religion. You see, government is necessary. Political posturing simply, basically, is people's attempts to exercise control over other people. In other words, politics isn't government, just as having a relationship with God isn't religion. Our forefathers were, in fact, very Christian men and women, and the documents they produced to give birth to the very unique nation we know as the United States of America is proof of that. In the very Declaration of Independence, the preamble reads as such: "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." This statement clearly demonstrates the forefathers' belief in a Creator, and that the Creator gave us certain rights that cannot be taken away by human law, because God law supersedes it. The idea of inalienable rights came from battling the concept that existed up until then, until our great nation was born, that only royally born human beings had rights beyond question. The very idea of inalienable rights requires there to be a source beyond human law in order for a human law not to be able to take it away. So government and God are not separate things, folks. Government is supposed to reflect the will of God, but even God gifted humanity with the freedom of choice. We could choose to follow his righteous path or not, to believe in the Creator or not. The Establishment Clause was not intended by our forefathers to take away Christianity or take it out of government, but to simply not have a government replace God by requiring the following of a specific belief system under penalty of law. God is the foundation of this great nation, and you cannot possibly conceive of a more solid foundation than him. The reason the Establishment Clause was written was because during colonial times, the Church of England was established by law in all the southern colonies, while localized Puritan or Congregationalist establishments had authority in most New England states, just like back in Europe. And in those colonies, clergy were appointed and disciplined by colonial authorities, and colonists were required to pay religious taxes and often to attend church services. Dissenters were often punished for preaching without a license or refusing to pay taxes to a church they disagreed with. So the forefathers wanted to ensure that our belief in God didn't become a religion with all of its political intertwinings. Since government is a reflection of God, praying in school, endorsing God on our currency, and displaying the Ten Commandments on government buildings is not only a healthy way to cohesively build a nation on a solid foundation of common tenets and laws, but steering us away from those practices that are almost guaranteed to contribute to our downfall, as you can see nowadays. After all, most of the Ten Commandments are simply a reflection of how we're supposed to respectfully treat each other as human beings. We shouldn't kill one another for greed. We shouldn't steal from one another or lie about one another, desire what they have without earning it ourselves. Most of our laws, in fact, reflect the very essence of the Ten Commandments as they pertain to human beings. I would submit to you that the entire reason this country has been so wildly successful in such a relatively short period of time compared to other nations of the world is because of its Judeo-Christian values, which emphasize family and common respect for each other. You know, I have been very privileged to have lived in a time period which I have. I was born in 1959. I'm old enough to remember a simpler time, a time where the flag meant unity for people, a time when the nuclear family was an essential part of the American culture and not a racist idea, a time where going to a ball game provided togetherness even among folks who sometimes believe in different things. We had a commonality of experience. There was a time when schools simply taught the basic things we needed to make it through life rather than indoctrinating our children into paths that are inherently unhealthy for them. You know, I don't believe that I'm looking through some rose-colored glasses. We are an imperfect people because of our imperfections. We built an imperfect nation. But our forefathers had the foresight to construct a nation through our Constitution and amendment process to always strive toward perfection, even if we never fully attain it. It is why people flock here from every corner of the globe to escape where they came from, as they're doing right now from Afghanistan. It's always amazing to me how our own citizens are capable of hating this nation, and people who have come here for the first time are in awe of it. And I have to earnestly and vehemently disagree with our most learned professors who proclaim in every educational institution from sea to shining sea that God has no place in governing our lives. Imagine that, folks. A creator who has no authority over what he created. A creator whose very laws that govern the workings of the universe having no say whatsoever in how we treat one another. As usual, my dear enlightened colleagues, I love you and welcome any opposing opinions. Unlike most of my videos, which are heavily laced with statistics, this one is simply an appeal to your common sense and love of one another and love of this country. In a way, it forces one to take sides, to either believe in God and all that entails, or to reject his existence and understand the ramification it will have for the downfall of this nation, which was created specifically to oppose the nasty tendency of human beings to abuse and take advantage of one another, as world history has so aptly proven. The forefathers knew what we would be up against in this world. They knew that the survival of our nation as it was founded depended on two things: an educated public and a virtuous citizenry. One required us to educate ourselves and to understand the uniqueness of what was created on our behalf so it couldn't be taken away. And the other requires us to have a firm foundation based upon the Creator and not on ourselves. Because without universal truth and law, we are left to our own devices, and folks, we don't do well on our own because we actually think we know what we're doing. If you have enjoyed our foray into the more philosophical and Christian interpretation of why this nation, or what this nation represents, please take the time to hit that little subscribe button below. I also welcome any spirited discussion of the same. Until next time, I hope you and your family remain well, and I hope you're doing well. Goodbye, and God bless.